All right, we're live.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. It is 7:01 on Tuesday, November 14th, and I now call to order the 2127th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will clerk please take roll call?
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Jessa,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
Councilmember Boyle,
Present.
and Councilmembers Espinoza and Williams have asked to be excused. We do have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So it's time for public comment. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive any comments.
Okay. Do we have anyone in virtual attendance?
There is one person in the attendees list.
Okay, thank you. So if there's anyone in actual attendance or in virtual attendance that would like to speak, please raise your hand now. If you are virtually or by phone, *9 will raise your hand for you. Okay, so we do have one in the lobby.
I'm gonna speak about something that's on the agenda. Do you want me to speak now or wait until we get to that agenda item?
Are we going to have a public comment on the agenda item you're going to be speaking on? Are you presenting or?
There can be comment on that one, yeah.
Okay.
Transportation.
So go ahead and wait. Okay. Perfect. All right. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on then. We're going to move on to the consent agenda, which consists of the agenda for tonight, November 14th, 2023, the council meeting minutes from October 24th, 2023, the City of Sunnyside Jail contract addendum regarding daily bed rate, the Walla Walla County Emergency Management update, the Curb Martin Airfield Area Planning Study Resolution of Support, authorization for the city administrator or designee to execute Washington State Office of Public Defense Indigent Defense Cost Reimbursement Grant Number GRT 24024, and excusing the absence of council members Espinoza and Williams. Are there any items any member of the council would like removed from the consent agenda at this time? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. I'll second.
Great. There's a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, we have no presentations on the agenda today. So we're going to move on to public hearings. There's one public hearing on the agenda, and Mr. Carlton will present on the 2024 preliminary budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you bring up the PowerPoint, please? You skip the first page. This is the second version of the budget we're presenting to you tonight. Considered the preliminary, our expectation is to bring the final budget for approval on the December 12th meeting. Again, just reiterating some of the stuff that we talked about in the past. We're going into this 2024 budget season with our conservative projections on revenues. Those revenues have been presented in a public hearing in the prior meeting, and also expenditures which are normally based on departmental requests. Key focus is to maintain our core services, investing in critical infrastructure, addressing staffing gaps and competitive wages, and then continue to obtain grants and funding opportunities. Next slide, please. So since the last presentation on this October 10th, we have updated the payroll costs for the fire department, although those have not been finalized as contract has not been ratified at this point. We did reduce the new PD employees additions from 2 to 1, and I'll explain that shortly. We reconciled and balanced all the interfund transfers. We reconciled all opening and closing fund balances, and we reconciled capital requests and associated funding mechanisms. Next page. So this is where we stand currently with an opening fund balance of just over $20 million. Revenues expected at $71,719,000, expenditures at $62,320,000 with an ending fund balance of $19,496,000. That is a drawdown of $600,214. At the prior meeting, that drawdown was at $249,472, a difference of $350,000. What happened is in our investigation of the transactions in the budgets, I found a $1.4 million error. It wasn't really an error, it was correct, but the revenue was in one fund and the expenditure was in another. So one was understated and the other was overstated. So we had to make that correction. Unfortunately, that $1.4 million was in current expense. So you can see the logic behind reducing the police by one. That includes automobile and associated expenditures. We also had a duplicate entry for the purchase of the new ambulance next year at $350,000. It was in current expense as well as in the equipment fund. So that helped out the 1.4, brought it down to $1 million. But then we basically went through and started to reduce some expenditures to get us back pretty close. We're a little bit different. We still show, well, we can go to the next slide. Oh, just to talk about this first. Here's our ending fund balance, the trend since 2011, and you can see we started off at around $7 million in fund balance and currently forecasted to be at $19.5 million. So the trend looks good. We are coming down a little bit from prior year. That's resulting in that $600,000 fund loss. And we've talked about that over the last couple of years, and a majority of that reduction relates to Lions Park and money we've accumulated in opening fund balance. We've accumulated that money for the last 3 to 4 years. My eyes are going funny. Oh. So we've accumulated about $1 million in the REIT funds to I'll just wait. Yeah, we've accumulated that money in the REIT funds for the Lions Park project. So typically we'd have a fund reduction. And as I go through the fund balances, we'll talk. There's a couple other funds that are showing a deficit for next year. But then again, some of those are accumulated money through equipment depreciation to pay for equipment purchases. So all in all, pretty healthy ending fund balance. Next slide. Very hard to see. I know a lot of numbers here. Here's all of our funds. You can see the total at the bottom. If you can see it, is that's the drawdown of 600,000. As you're going through it, these are grouped as how we're reported to the state. So there's groupings of funds that get rolled up. You can see under current expense, those 4 funds roll up. You can see we do have a reduction. of $149,000 in the current expense funds. But that's associated, most of that is in technology reserve as we'd accumulated money to pay for the Tyler implementation, which will be completed next year. And that's shows there about 108,000 reduction in the technology reserve and a small reduction in the employee benefit reserve, which is our left one employee for future costs. Traditionally, we've put about $100,000 into that account. Based on the error, we decided to not transfer additional money in, and we're happy with the current opening fund balance of $441,000 to fund any of those medical expenses. Now we get down there, you can see in about a third down the page, the fund 305, 306, which are our REIT funds. And you can see the drawdown in 306 of just under $1 million in relation to Lions Park project. And we have a number of road projects and park projects going next year, and a lot of that money flows out of REIT 1, which also we've been accumulating money in there as well. So you can see a $500,000 reduction in that fund balance. So overall, just those two funds are resulting in, $1.5 million in fund reduction. If you take that to include in the bottom, you can see the net. If you take that out, we actually have a growth of nearly $1 million. You can see the equipment reserve fund is showing a small reduction of $71,000 relating to purchase of equipment. Into the street funds. The street operating fund 100 is showing a deficit of $85,000. When you consider all the street funds overall, you can see they're at 69,000 surplus. The water funds, the next group of funds overall, they are showing a surplus of 409,000. You can see in the operating fund a small deficit of 30,000. Some of that is associated to the transfer of funds to the construction fund in order to fund projects, and that comes out of our rate model, and that's to the tune of about 300,000. So if you take that out of the scenario, in total, you can see that overall we're $409,000 surplus in the water fund. Wastewater, overall, you can see they have a surplus of 622,000, very healthy. But you guys know that the projects coming up in wastewater treatment plant of $26 million is definitely going to impact our ending fund balance. The next group is our stormwater fund, showing a small deficit of $210. Really immaterial, but it is a deficit. And ambulance utility, this was the year we have the full utility charge going in, and we're showing a surplus there of 39,000, which also includes the purchase of an ambulance at 350. So overall, we're showing a deficit for the city for the year of $600,000, but still maintaining a strong ending fund balance. Next slide, please. This is our financial reserve requirements that are in our financial policies, and you can see that we're in good shape in all categories except our current expense reserve fund, which is showing a $254,000 deficit to our financial policy. Although in the financial policy, it does say under this particular fund that is a goal. So we're short of our goal, but we are again trying to, we had to move some money around to try to bring current expense back into break-even scenarios. So we didn't transfer any money for the current expense reserve fund for 2024. the rest of the funds meet their requirements. Next slide. Historically, in the last couple of years, I'd given a slide showing each individual main utility and operating funds and broke them out according to their operating capital and debt on a separate slide. This year, I decided to throw it onto one slide, make it a little more concise and not going through 8 different slides showing the same information. And you can see current expense. There's in operating is in good shape, small amount of capital, but we have a large amount of interfund transfers. Because current expense funds a lot of different areas. It funds streets, parks, a lot of money gets transferred out, IT, equipment. So you can see that there's quite a bit of interfund transfers, and you can see our total deficit or surplus of just $12,000. So pretty much a break even. The streets fund, a little bit of a deficit in their operating. Capital is in good shape. Very little in interfund transfers for a surplus of 69,000. The REIT 1 and 2, you can see there's, associated to the capital expenditures, a deficit of 1.5 million, but was planned and expected. In the water funds, you can see operating wise, they're, pretty close to break even. A little bit of extra money in the capital, and the capital revenue and expenditures, you think you have grants or you have money coming in. It doesn't necessarily flow through at the same time year over year. So you can have differences in when you receive the money versus when you have the expenditure. So for next year, we're showing a net surplus in capital there for 294,000. Then you can see the debt, the revenue and expenditures. The revenue is a little higher under the debt because we have money that flows through the utilities directly into that fund. So they're in good shape, showing a surplus of 119,000. Overall, a surplus of 409,000. Wastewater, good shape on the net operating cost revenue. The capital, they're showing a drawdown in the capital accounts of 610,000 associated to our portion of grants and loans required for capital projects. Debt is pretty much a break even, and overall a surplus of 622,000. Stormwater, again, a surplus on operating. Small deficit in capital, and a small amount of debt. There's no revenue in the debt because that's the last payment next year for the stormwater loan. It was for the I can't remember. Street sweeper. Oh, for the street sweeper. Thank you, Mike. And that's the last year of the payment in there. Overall, a small a deficit of $210. Ambulance utility strong on operating. You can see that operating surplus gets mostly consumed by the capital, which is a new ambulance. Overall, a surplus of 39,000. And that's where we stand on the major funds. I was asked by council to bring together the debt that the city has, and this slide is a culmination of all of our debt as far as loans and leases. You can see that our total loan amount is total commitment we had in loans was just under 36 million. We have an outstanding principal at 12/31/23 of $22.1 million. Our payments scheduled for 2024 are 2.3 million. You can see the split between the principal and interest, and an outstanding balance at the end of 2024 of 20,267,000. And you can see it's broken down by different fund amounts, wastewater, water, and then our leases. Next slide. Now, this is associated to our debt limits. So you can see, you guys can see it on your screens maybe. You can see that our total general obligated, we have voted debt on our GO debt. It's on the CARS project. Our principal at the end of 2024 is $3.6 million left to pay on that, and that's through 2033. You can see the leases, next couple leases, and then we have our Whitman Drive water sewer revenue bond has a balance of 2.9 million. We have 2 new loans that are coming through potentially next year. One is a non-voted debt on our Sallyport conversion of 2 million, and tax increment bond that we currently show at 4.1 million. Overall, our non-voted general obligation debt is 9.1 million, assuming those 2 new projects go forward and we do get the financing. And our total general obligation amount is 12.7. You can see in that column right beside it, it shows what our maximum amounts are according to RCW. And you can see based on our assessed value that's up in the top row there, that we have the ability to have non-voted general obligation debt of just over 17 million. So we have $8 million of room left. You can see that overall, including our voted debt, is a total of 12.7, and we're allowed to have 2.5% of our assessed value, which would be 28.5. So we still have close to $16 million in potential debt and still be within compliance. The next groupings are our utility debt, which aren't part of the same calculation in our general obligation. Those are associated just to the utilities. And you can see we have combined utility debt, including projects from this year, of $16.3 million. You can see including the 12 million, we have a total city debt of $29 million, which is 2.54% of our assessed value, and we're allowed to be up as high as 10%, which would be 114 million. So that being said, we feel we're in pretty good shape as far as our debt limits. Next slide is our staffing information. This is similar to what was provided in the last meeting. We did reduce our police officers from 2 to 1. We do have some of the information has come in on the police insurance increases, which at health at 2.7%, and no increases in the other insurance. And all other employees, we didn't have all our increases secured, so 4.1% for health and no increases in the other plans. And you can see the increases in that top right side of the page with police at their negotiated percentage of 5%. The fire, we have an estimation in the budget, but it's not they're not complete as they're still in negotiations and hasn't been ratified. Public employees union at 3.4%, same for non-union exempt, and exempt employees at 3.5%. Sergeants mirror the police increase at 5%, and contract employees are based on CPIW, which is at 3.6%. And those have all been incorporated into the current budget. I just wanted to bring up what our capital facility plan is that we've included in the budget, and we're at a total of $2 million in capital expenditures planned for 2024. Two large projects there, wastewater treatment plant and Lions Park. Next slide. Here's our equipment replacement in the budget at $1.8 million. And you can see the breakdown according to the different departments. And again, those have all been incorporated. And last is the information technology budget for 2024. And you can see we're at 480,000. We have about 100,000 in that admin finance. That is for completion of the Tyler implementation. That is non-reoccurring costs. Majority of these other costs in here are recurring, except for when you get into computers and that sort of equipment. But that's been well handled the last, say, 5 years as far as acquisition. So we're in good shape as far as our computer equipment goes. The next step, we'll continue to review and update as necessary. And we have our budget adoption plan for December 12th. And that's where we stand with the budget. Questions, please.
All right, let's go through council members for any questions or comments. Councilmember Jessup.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland.
No questions. Looks great. Thanks for all your work.
Councilmember Peterson.
Just a real quick question on the equipment replacement plan summary. Are there outstanding vehicles for snow removal that we're still waiting to purchase?
Yes, there's 2 of those in for next year.
Yeah. And so we don't
They're
know.
about $75,000 a piece, so a total of about 150,000.
And we'll be purchasing those past.
They're ordered now
Okay.
because they have to order. Remember, you passed that
Yeah.
resolution of council saying Mike can order stuff in advance because otherwise,
Yeah.
if they didn't order them, there's no guarantee they could get them next year.
But we don't know when we're going to get them, do we?
No, we don't. The trucks themselves are quite a ways out.
Yeah.
And the snow equipment that will go on them are separate purchases. I would not expect them for this winter.
Not this season. Yeah. Right. I
Unfortunately.
was just curious whether we were out on the cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Looks good.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we have no additional questions or comments by council. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive any comments.
Okay, if there's anyone in actual or virtual attendance that would like to speak regarding the budget proposal, please raise your hand now. If you're connected by phone, *9 will do that for you. All right. Let me quickly move in the right direction. All right. So if there's no public comments, is there any additional discussion by council members? And if not, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Second.
Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the hearing is closed. Thank you so much, Brian. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
All right.
Next time, Brian, if you could find the 1.4 in the other direction, that'd be great.
Overall, it's 0.
No, it looks not.
Yeah, it looks great. So a lot of different categories for sure. Okay, action items. There's 7 action items on the agenda tonight. And first, Mr. McAndrews is going to present on the contract amendment for professional services for well number 2 relocation project.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a project we've talked about several times. It can be a little confusing because it started off as well 2 replacement. However, I think most of us are aware of it as our well 6 project. So well 6 is replacing well 2. So We have a professional services contract in place with RH2 Engineering. They helped out with the design and construction management and the ongoing project management to get this project to the finish line. As we've talked about before, there have been a number of delays in this project, long lead items, things kind of got they just kept kind of spiraling, waiting for some of our critical components to get in. We finally have the well online, and there's kind of a short punch list left of things to wrap up so the project can be closed out, can reach substantial completion. But through this process, there was some additional costs to the city. And one of those is the ongoing need for on-site observation and contract management. That RH2 has been doing certified payroll reviews that are required by funding agencies, and just general technical assistance. So to get this to the actual finish line, RH2 put together this amendment, time and materials. They expect it to be no more than the $61,494. That being said, I've met with the owner of Nelson Construction, who's actually been building the well house and doing the work, and have asked them to take care of the real costs to the city. And I have a preliminary email from him agreeing to do so. I haven't gotten a formal response yet, but he indicated that they will take care of these costs, as well as the costs of some of the water that we had to buy from Walla Walla. We're waiting for this well to come online. So yeah, this is the amendment to that contract with RH2 to authorize them to continue doing the things that they've been doing for us to get this project wrapped up. Any questions?
All right, I see you included the little well map.
I did. I remembered my map this time.
Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments? Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions.
not even about the map?
You know, I love it. I'm just glazed eyes and
Councilmember Shorman,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
All right, so if there's no discussion or no other questions, do we have a motion or recommended action?
A motion to authorize city administrator to sign contract amendment number 8, increasing authorization amount by $61,494 for a total authorization amount of $1,853,488.
I'll second.
Great, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, Mr. McAndrews, you're still up with the electric service contract for lift station number 5 relocation project.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is another project we've talked about a handful of times. This is our Lift Station 5 project over on Southwest First. It's moving the lift station, the sewer lift station, out of the sidewalk into the piece of property that the city somewhat recently acquired across the street and down the road a little ways. As part of that project, we're going to need electrical service to the new site. And so we reached out to Pacific Power, and they put together the electric service contract, which is included, that essentially is to provide power to that site for $25,626. And that's after taking into account their Pacific Power's extension allowance of $3,533. So we're trying to get ahead of some of these things on this project and get things in motion. So when we go to bid here in the near future, we have kind of all our ducks in a row and trying to avoid some delays in the future. Any questions?
Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Peterson,
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
None, thanks.
All right, we have no questions or comments. Do we have a recommended action?
I'll make a motion to approve Public Works Director to sign electric service contract with Pacific Power for the improvements to provide power to the city's lift station number 5 as part of the relocation project.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, next is a purchase of flight. Thank you for spelling that for me. Concerter pump and accessories for lift station number 5 relocation project.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Again, the Lift Station 5 project over on Southwest First. After a lot of the supply chain issues we had with our well 6 project and that we've seen and heard about on other projects around the state, we wanted to get on top of ordering the critical pump for this lift station project. So JUB engineers spec'd this out. They're the engineer on the project. They spec'd this out and helped acquire the quote from the vendor that is a sole source supplier of this for us. These are the same pumps that we've used on the previous lift station. We did lift station 7 down off Teal Road. And we just want to get the pump and the accessories for it ordered so that with the estimated 12 to 18 week lead time, that hopefully they're on site when we need them for the project early next year. And the total for the pump and the accessories is $55,200. Anybody have any questions?
Councilmember Jessup.
Is that right? The lead time they're expecting is 12 to 18 weeks.
That's correct. Yeah, that's why we want to get it ordered now and have the city order it. A lot of times on projects like these, we would go out to bid, we'd have the contractor place the order. That causes delays essentially because it takes longer before the parts are ordered. So that's part of why we want to order this as a city and then provide it to the contractor, whoever gets the bid.
Can't speed that.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right, if there are no questions and no further discussion, is there a motion?
I'll motion to authorize city administrator to sign contract with Whitney Equipment Company Incorporated for the purchase of Flicked Concerter pump and accessories for the city's lift station number 5 relocation project.
Second.
Right, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. All right, moving right along, and still Mr. McAndrews with a amendment number 8 to the agreement for operations, maintenance, and management services for operations of the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for, as you guys, I think, are all aware, we have Jacobs Group has been providing operations management for a wastewater treatment plant since I think 2016. So each year we do a contract amendment with them. They put in a bunch of effort to put the amendment together, give it to us. We look it over and then bring it to you for authorization. So they were diligent about getting this done on time for us this year. And this contract amendment is an increase of 4.29% from last year's, which is about a $59,000 increase, I believe, and brings the cost of the contract up to $1,365,242. I have asked Jade from Jacobs Group to be here tonight. And I don't know, Jade, do you have anything to add?
No, just
You can step up to the podium if you, sorry.
Press the button, and make sure you press the button to green's on.
Press this button. Just decided that at Robert's request, and I'm happy to be here, of course, to answer any questions that y'all might have as to why the increase is what it is.
Thank you, Gabe. That being said, does anybody have any questions?
All right, Councilmember Jessup, any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
The percentage was 4, it's right there, 4.229.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
Yeah, I don't have questions either. If it seems reasonable to you guys, sounds good.
Councilmember Boyle.
I don't have any questions. I wish all my bills from this year were only going up 4%.
All right, so since you took the effort to be here, I do want to ask, I just wanted to ask is you can kind of give a high level of what these costs include? I'm assuming maybe personnel or something, or does it have something to do more with equipment or labor kind of things?
I can give you down to the dollar for 5 items. The biggest one though is electricity. It's 12.3% increase in, like I'm echoing, which accounted for $25,839 of an overall $57,000 increase, $59,000 increase. So, almost half of it's in electricity. We only had a 2.95% increase in labor. Labor is oftentimes the most expensive portion, and that accounted for a little over $17,000 of that increase. Other things, the increase was natural gas, which was a large increase. Percentage wise, dollar amount is kind of small in comparison, 33% increase, but $3,600 in real dollars. And then laboratory services, we did make a decision to use a different lab that is more responsive. And some of our permit samples that we run, time is a big factor for us. So that increased about 28%, about $9,500. So.
All right, well, that all makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down for us. Councilmember Peterson does have one question.
Based on. Is that usage or rate?
The rate increased by 12.3%. It started out as 8.1 is what they told us it would be. Pacific Power.
Okay.
And while we use Columbia REA, so I don't always keep them separated, but
I know mine at home went up significantly. It was a large increase from Pacific Power last year. It was a little shocking. I don't know about the percentage off the top of my head.
yeah, it's last year's power increase was 13.8%. So counted as a little blessing that it was only 12 this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's all the wisdom I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I will add to that, part of our wastewater treatment plant improvements that we're going to be doing have some energy efficiencies. So hopefully, even though the rate percentage went up, hopefully there'll be some savings, or maybe it'll be a wash. Some of those items.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So if there's no other questions or comments, do we have a motion?
All right, I'd move to authorize the mayor to sign amendment number 8, the agreement of operations, maintenance and management services for CH2M to operate the city's wastewater treatment plant.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. All right, next, we're going to give you a break and we're going to put Mike in the hot seat to discuss the imposition, so of 0.1% sales and use tax to finance transportation improvement cost in the City of College Place Transportation Benefit District.
Okay, so I will give everyone a primer in this, and for those that have been around long, this will probably be like the boogeyman because this has been going back and forth for frankly over various points over the last 6 years. So going back to 17, we knew that funding essentially sidewalks and then replacement and general maintenance of our roads has definitely been an issue because we have the street fund, but in general, that's a glorified transfer from current expense. You have meager gas tax, and then the current expense fund props it up. Now, what we did over the years to continue like try to fix up roads and stuff, because I hear about a lot in the community about methodology of why we doing 4th Street, why are we doing this or that, is that we started federally classifying roads, because if you federally classify roads, then you can actually get grant dollars for it. So over the years, we federally classified Damson, a portion of Scenic View, 8th Street between College and Larch, and a variety of roads. And then we were essentially able to parlay that into getting grants to fix them up. However, being able to get that requires traffic counts and a lot of other things. And we're basically out of the bag of tricks of federally classifying roads, because I've tried, we've done, Robert can attest to it, because when I send the list out to public works staff to do the traffic counters, the other roads I've been hoping that would hit the threshold have not hit the threshold. So we are now at that cap. The other bag of the trick was the community development block grant. Now, unlike City of Walla Walla, we aren't big enough to get our own amount of money directly from the Fed, so we have to compete against everyone else from the state. And it's really the streets around College Avenue that are in the low income block group that qualifies us. However, score high, you need to provide match money of some kind. Now, in the last couple of years, we picked roads that were adjacent to properties the university owned, and then they donated right away, and the cash value of that right away donation counted as our match. We're now getting out of that kind of concept too now. And then you see the pavement management plan, y'all approved that last year. So we actually have a methodology for the roads to get changed out. And then on top of that, with inflation, the per ton asphalt cost, I mean, I remember when I started here, it was around like $3-4 a ton. And it's like, I mean, some of the estimates have gone as high as like 17 to 19. So we have a major problem, basically in a nutshell, we have a major problem here. And so we really need an additional revenue source to prop up streets so we can replace them quicker than like the 200 years we're at now for our local roads. So what the state has allowed now is that you can do councilmanically a 0.1% sales tax. That started in 2022. The legal concept of a TBD, we've had like a phantom TBD in existence since 2017. So it's like legally existed, it just collects no revenue. So this would fix that. And keep in mind, we have a lot of retail generators here between the Walmart, the Home Depot, Goodwill, and we're always getting a lot of other stuff. And the general concept here, and you'll see it in the capital facility plan that we've been talking ad hominem about the last month or two, the Safe Walk program. So starting to whittle down the sidewalk list, and then also repaving some of these local streets that there's no way we're going to get federally classified. We actually have in a capital facility plan now where basically every year we'd be teeing up 2 segments of sidewalk and 2 segments of roads to repave or put a sidewalk talking, and then start engineering another 2 segments for the following year. So we're actually whittling stuff down. And then as far as the concept of what other areas pay for what, I just want to bring this up. So City of Walla Walla, sales tax over there is 0.2%. So we're still lower than them. Also, our neighbors, Waitsburg, Dayton, Connell, Othello, they all have this 0.2%. So there's definitely many others essentially ahead of us. And yeah, I'm just bringing it up for Council Manic because this has been a discussion. It's been had over a number of years, and we've done what we can to essentially delay this. But I think we're at a point now we need to do something. And then also another point I want to bring up, just because I've heard this just being out around town too, about the concept of, oh, well, you're doing this council manically, why don't you have like a vote or something? Votes are not free. So it's one thing if you're dealing about the intrinsic value proposition of like, hey, I want a library, and then you have folks on the left or right that want it or don't want it. We know the streets, the ones that are federally classified, are not in good condition. They keep going. And anytime we put stuff on the ballot, the fee for that goes anywhere from $35,000 to $45,000. So it's not free. So I just want to put that out there as well. It's that if you know you have a need regardless and you have this other option, isn't it in the best interest to go save $35,000 or $45,000? I'll leave that up to you all, but personally, I don't know. I tend to think that. So you'll see this. There's a lot of material there because this has been churning through over the last 6 years. We've delayed it as long as we can. I feel we're at the point now where it really is not proper to delay it anymore. So it's in front of you all for consideration. I will take questions on it. Thank you.
Before I go to questions, I do want to share that I did encourage Mike to bring this topic up a few months back ago when he and I were discussing plans. I'm sure the rest of you feel like I do. 200 years to improve our city's roads and sidewalks is unacceptable. And we've just and as Mike said, we've run out of other resources to get our roads and our sidewalks fixed. So aside from it being blight, it's a safety issue. We have, no sidewalks are very dangerous for our pedestrians, our children. And then I get a lot of complaints about the conditions of the roads. That's one of a large thing that I hear all the time about the roads, especially within neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods definitely don't qualify within the designations of getting any kind of grant funding. So the reality is we wouldn't have the money to repair them, period. They just won't happen unless we do something different. And one thing I felt was really strong towards this is it's a sales tax. So much of the burden isn't solely put on the shoulders or the wallets of College Place residents. It is shared with other shoppers that come into our community with, again, Walmart, Home Depot, and Goodwill. We get a lot of residents from the city of Walla Walla, as well as surrounding the county and Umatilla County that come that will help offset some of this expense on our citizens. So I felt that this was a good option to take care of these problems that we have on our roads. And rather than just stopping the progress that we have made in the last 6 years. Okay, with that, Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
No, I concur. Thank you very much for all the data points for the last 6 months. I've truly appreciate that many data points. If I understand correctly, I know other cities and such still do the 2%, right? But that still keeps us under the overall sales tax number
Yeah.
as well, right?
Yeah,
Even if
so-
we do the 1/10%, it still
Yeah.
keeps us below everybody else's sales tax.
Yeah, we're below anywhere near here on this side of the border. So Walla Walla, they're at 8.9. This would bump us up to 8.8. And that's lower than all those cities I mentioned. And it's also lower than the Tri-Cities because they have a litany of other things that they add to their sales taxes too. So in general, we'd still be the lowest, except we'd be able to like fix stuff now.
Yeah. So thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cleveland.
Would the funds collected by the 1/10 of 1%, would they be restricted? Are they going to like the general streets fund, or are they only for specific roads? If so, what are they?
So this basically is restricted to like a TBD fund, and it can be transferred in the streets, but it's basically for the maintenance and reconstruction of transportation assets. So anything with public roads, sidewalks, bike paths, things like that, and that is what it's meant for. And prior to this, really all that we've been doing is we've either have been siphoning off money from current expense, or with our real estate excise tax fund, we've been trying to like split some of that with our chip seal and then repave a block a year. But with the increase of costs, that's starting to like definitely not pencil either. So
That's another thing with the revenue from gas
yeah.
is also, we're seeing a downward direction of that as well. Councilmember Peterson.
So Mike, this percentage, what's the dollar amount? Did you mention that already or?
I've mentioned in meetings in the past, I probably neglected that part of it. So our conservative estimate would be bringing in about 350,000 a year. We think it could be as high as 400,000 a year, but we're giving ourselves a handicap there, so 350. But yeah, that's definitely going to be a major improvement over what we've had.
So why not go the 2%?
Because the way they wrote that new law, you would still have to do a vote of the people on.
Okay.
The 1/10 you can do council manically. So and the other concept which works out nice is by doing the way they wrote the law for the 1/10 of 1% is that once you all pass that, it's in perpetuity. The problem if you go above that to the 0.2%, they still haven't fixed the law about when you do it to a vote. And when you do it to a vote, it's only for a 10-year period. They need to still fix that. So there's some incongruency going on. So even though it's a little more subdued, it puts us in a protected position to at least have some money coming in. And if residents are seeing that hey, we like this stuff's getting fixed quicker and we want it more, then that's a discussion to have another point. But at this point, we're trying to make sure we're in a protected position because stuff's definitely not getting any cheaper. And frankly, saving the $35,000 or $45,000 that was basically causing issue again, incurring expense.
So Mike, is it the 2% or is it the staging of it? In other words, it's not 2%, but
no.
2/10. Yeah, I get it. Is it the total that makes it go to a vote, or can you? My question is, in 2 years, could we do this again, or is that a tripwire?
So at least as of right now, that's a tripwire, but in the long session, not in FY 2024, but in 2025, there is talk about finally fixing the congruency in the TBD bill. Because really what has driven all this is way back in the olden days, the car tabs used to pay for all of this. But then because of all the IMAN stuff, it came close bankrupting a lot of people in cities. So I mean, they came up with this as a pseudo solution. But the problem is with that bill they ran through in 2022, it didn't cover the umbrella of everything. They just dealt with the 1/10, where it's you do that, you're fine. But then you do anything above that, which you have the legal ability to call it for a vote, but then it would only be for the 10 years. And then plus you're paying election costs.
Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Sherman.
I think just to add on to Lauren's question, so we do the 1%. You could go out and do a vote to get the other percent or the other point,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then that has a 10-year shelf life.
Yeah,
But we can maintain them.
exactly.
No, it sounds great. Thank you for the information.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. I think we've got it covered, but thanks.
Oh, and the Mayor Emily.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Emily, was this the topic you wanted to talk about? All right,
It's highly controversial, Emily, just so you.
please step on up. And don't forget to press the little green light.
I'm Emily Brown. I live at 40 Lenore Street in Walla Walla. I'm the policy advocate with Blue Zones Project, and doesn't sound like this is super controversial, but I just wanted to come and express my encouragement of you all to support this sales tax. I think it's going to be a really important step in helping the city of College Place realize a lot of the dreams that you all have for adding bicycle and pedestrian safety. We help the city with the Complete Streets Plan, which is going on right now. Excuse me, the local road safety plan, the ADA transition plan. And these are all really important steps. And out of those, two things were clear. One is that the city is really committed to safety and quality of life, but also how expensive all of those improvements are going to be. And so I'm really excited to see Mike bringing this up. I think it's a really important step as far as ensuring quality infrastructure for the community. And so just would urge you all to vote yes, to support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's always reassuring to hear other encouragements or thoughts that we might not be thinking of all the time. So thank you. All right, any other comments or questions?
I actually have one real quick, Mike, because I was reading the letters of support that you put in here. Did you get any letters of
No.
not disapproval? It's good. Okay.
No, it was in the survey. It was in the survey. We did YouTube videos about it and put it on social media. So I mean, people had the chance. So
Thank you.
All right, so if there's no further questions or comments, do we have a motion for this ordinance?
I'll make one. Oh, are you gonna? Oh, it's a lot of words. You do it.
No, you don't.
You have a question? Okay, all right. Well, here we go. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-012 to add a new section 3.46.020 to the College Place Municipal Code, imposing an additional sales and use tax of 0.1% within the boundaries of the College Place Transportation Benefit District for the purposes of financing the costs associated with transportation improvements in the district as authorized by RCW 36.73.065 and RCW 82.14.0455, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Second.
Excellent. First and a second, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Mike, congratulations. Thank you. I know I threw this at you like mid-year. Thank you for putting all this work together and putting your thoughts behind it. I appreciate it. And congratulations. That's good work.
yeah.
All right, let's see. Next, we're gonna move on to
Here I started this out.
let's see, the fiscal year 2024 state and federal legislative agenda. Mike's gonna go through that bit for us.
Yep. So this is for action because we're getting to a point now we have to set up our priorities because especially with the state, since they're going to be in shorter session, they really start their earlier level work now, and then the feds are going to as well. So we've gone over this at length, so I'm just going to cover the key project priorities. The big one is the water system. system improvement. Because we're going to be doing another well. It's being drilled as we speak, but the part that we're getting funding for is the well house itself. And that's to add another well, because we've been talking about wells over years, but that was to replace the two failed ones. Now we've had population growth and not another actual well. So that's a bit of an issue. Through our federal lobbyists, we end up finding out that you can apparently request stuff in the governor's budget, and they decide to like give it to you or not. So we have so that 1 million, yes, that's what it's for. So that was something new. Then reservoir number 4, this is the one that would be out like on the bluff above the wastewater treatment plant. And this is going to be a heavier lift just because we're trying to assemble a wide array of funding from everyone just so it doesn't like burden us. But it's definitely needed. We're doing engineering now, but the construction cost is 15 million and climbing as the years go on, as we all know. So that's a big one. Lions Park Community Center, that is starting to coalesce together. We want to essentially ask a state earmark for $2.5 million. They tend to fund a lot of the library elements of stuff and commercial kitchens. The federal earmark, we're waiting on the final documentation for that. And then there's other grants as well, but that is coming together. The whole police department, that's out of the ways, but again, trying to get this stuff in front of the federal and state legislation, because there are areas to essentially get earmarks for that. And then since in general we funded Majanier Road, now we can start selling another project, which originally we had mixed with it at the same time, but we just aren't big enough to attract the attention to get both funded by the same grant. Southeast 12th Street from College Avenue to Sky. So really starting to put that together. And then with the state legislative agenda, key things naturally is trying to strengthen all the grant programs and the state investment in infrastructure. Another big thing is changing the Main Street program RCW, where 2 communities could be under a downtown association with 2 different B&O tax limits, because we've tried to get a Main Street group going here for 7 years now, and every time a lot of the owners, they have some businesses here, also have them in Walla Walla, and it ends, well, hey, we don't have time for this, so just up the business license and let us know. But the issue is that we're like leaving a ton of money on the table, because that's like B&O tax money that they could pay and keep here and not give to Olympia. So it's weird. And then fixing the Growth Management Act, and then the building code changes, precluding natural gas, trying to fight that because there's limited issues on the electricity our grid can handle right now, at least in this area. And then with public safety, just trying to get more resources for basic law enforcement academy, behavioral health services, and then language about the mental health responders, trying to fix that, because as y'all may recall, about year or 2 ago, we had grant money to go hire one, and then the state was so stringent on the requirements. We had a PhD that was only 2 months from getting their doctorate, and they said no because their earlier degree wasn't related. So in a rural area like here, that makes no sense at all. And then the federal legislative agenda, the big thing there is to get us added to Section 219 of the Army Corps program. Because if this area, if Eastern Washington's added into that, you can just like request projects with earmarks and then get like 75% of it funded by the feds. And right now they added Western Washington, but then they messed up and didn't include the Eastern Washington. So that really needs to be fixed. And then also just continuing to work on State Route 125 and then also Highway 12 Phase 8. But a lot of this stuff is just expounded upon language from years past and then just updating things. So with that, I'll take questions, but we really need this passed because we're already at that time of the year already.
All right, so are you saying go ahead and ask questions, but pass it anyway? Okay. Okay, Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Peterson.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike, I think you're going to have some trouble on this. So if there's no questions or comments, do we have a recommended action or motion on this resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 23-064, which adopts 2024 state and federal legislative priorities for the city of College Place.
Second.
Excellent. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Mike, thank you for putting that together. It's quite encompassing. So thank you. And I know, when we visited DC, legislators are interested in hearing our needs. So we need to just get them out there. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see, make sure I'm not on the wrong thing here. Bye, Emily. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And if you would like to go home.
No, he likes it here.
I live here. Okay. No,
I know, aren't we?
his day in the sun has passed.
You can see the audience.
No, we appreciate. All right, let's see. I think we're on to the property tax levy. Mr. Carlton.
Thank you, Mayor. If you can bring up the presentation. I'll go through this quickly. This is the same information that was brought at the last meeting for the public hearing. No change at this point. I'll run through it quickly. We are having a increase in the assessed value as given by the Walla Walla County. Increase in assessed value of 8.61%. As you may be aware, we're restricted by RCW that we're only allowed to increase our property tax revenue a maximum of 1% a year. So really not tied into the valuation or any of the rates, strictly tied into a total dollar amount. So if it was $1 million, the next year we could go $1.01 million is the maximum amount of property tax could be. But what you will see is even though we put in a 0% increase, it will cost people more money on their property taxes because their assessed value is going up by more than the 1%. So even if we don't increase it, people are going to see an increase in their property taxes.
But not as much as they could.
Yeah.
That's correct. So last year we did not take a property tax increase, and we are recommending this year again not to take the property tax increase. Next slide. You can see there's a trend in the assessed value going up considerably in the last 3 years since COVID. 7.6% increase this year in the assessed value, or anticipated for next year. That also includes a certain amount, it'll come up in the next slide, sorry. And this is the new construction. This is why, even though we're not doing an increase, we will get a small increase in our property tax revenue because the anticipated new construction. And the county provides that number, and their estimate for next year is $10.3 million. And on the next slide, you can see there's a trend in our new construction value. So definitely the county's not, and is gone down from the last 6 years, has exceeded the amount they're anticipating for next year. I'm not aware of the matrix or how they go about that calculation, but that we can hope they're wrong. But regardless, that's what we have to use for our assessment. So we'll get a small property tax increase based on that anticipated new construction value. Next slide is the calculation of the levy. This is, showing the amount that we'll get based on the general fund and our bond levy. As you recall, your property taxes is broken down into two components, our general fund and then the bond levy for the CARS project. That amount stays consistent year over year because our payment doesn't change. So that bond levy rate goes down year over year as assessed value goes up. Although that percentage increase, like I said earlier, typically doesn't exceed the growth in the assessed value. So you end up having more on your property taxes, but we don't get any additional money. We're capped out at the $489,000 to pay back that bond. On the first part of the sheet, you can see that there's the $15,000 in new construction amount. And there's our increased property taxes of without 1% increase of $1.634 million next year. And you can see that based on the $1,000 of assessed value, our rate goes down from the prior year. But as the assessed value goes up, you get diminishing returns and you end up having to pay more depending on the increase in your assessed value. Here's the combined levy calculation showing potentially what would cost somebody on the average selling price or average home price in College Place. You can see in the bottom third of the page, 2023 had an assessed value or average home price of $417,000. That is increasing in 2024 to $449,000. You can see our levy rate goes down, but you have you get a slight reduction in your property tax of $1.34. So not substantial, but it's not an increase. And on the next sheet, just the combined, and you could see what the difference would be there if we included the 1% in the bottom. We're saving about $16,000 by not increasing the 1% based on estimates of the county's assessed value. And the last page, of course, we've seen this numerous times, is the actual amount of money we receive at the city at 2.32 cents per dollar of property tax revenue paid by College Place residents and the different associated buckets that all that money goes to. That's it. We're required to submit to the county by the end of November.
Could you go back to screens? The bottom line says increased tax.
Yeah, it should be decreased. It should be
That's fine. No,
it should be it's actually a savings.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's a typo.
You can't get the accountant out of them.
They tried.
It should say savings in big bold letters.
No, it's, yeah.
All right, Councilmember Jessup, questions or comments?
Thank you.
Councilmember Freeman, Councilmember Peterson,
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman,
No question.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions, thanks.
Oh, and just so everyone knows, that not taking an increase in a particular year, that carries forward to future years. So you don't lose that ability to increase your revenue base. So right now we're at, Mike believes there's some years before that we also didn't take the increase. I'll have to go back and look at it. So we're carrying forward 2% to a future year if needed.
So like so since we're technically allowed to increase by the 1% annually, if we didn't take this and we defer it for 5 years,
You
we
get
could have a year where we could increase it by 5%.
Yeah.
How far can we look back? So I thought this was a new change.
So yeah, this was like a newer one from like compared to like when I started here. From at least what I have found in some of my records, I think if this is like the second one since I've been here, from what I can tell, it looked like there were like 2 other ones. So I think we may have banked around 4%.
So my question though is, didn't there just become a new RCW or whatever that said we couldn't bank them and now we can?
Yeah.
So we can go back further to from when that RCW.
From what I'm understanding, MRSC, we can as long as we were saying at the time that it was like 0, then you can. But in most years historically, this council did take it. So
Because we thought we would lose it.
Well, yeah. So there is. We'll find out the aggregate amount that technically is banked. We just haven't had that time, but we'll get that.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. I'll talk.
I think I understand what Heather's asking.
So
Voice of Reef above.
And I will get that information to you if I understood you correctly.
Okay, you'll get me information and then I'll say whether or not you understood it correctly.
And if she didn't understand, she'll get you some other information.
Thank you, Reed.
Okay, Councilmember Peterson.
So it would be, okay, I'm sorry. The percentage would be a total percentage on a future assessed value.
Yeah.
You don't bank away $1 in 1883 and get your $1 from 1883 or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In other words, it would be 5% of a much larger
Yeah.
number.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't take it now. It's an investment in our future.
That's right.
All right.
It's, yeah. Big money.
Ryan, thank you for getting us these numbers. We appreciate it. And it helps us to be able to see what the cost of decisions are. So thank you for that. All right, so there's no additional discussion. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion to approve the 2024 property tax levy resolution number 23-065.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you for that. All right, we've got some administrative reports, 5 on the agenda tonight. Ms. St. Clair is going to present on the LTAC funding recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Lodging Tax Advisory Commission met on November 2nd and reviewed the applications that the city received. A request for proposals was published in the Union Bulletin on August 24th and September 7th. In addition, the request for proposals was sent out to the contacts on the RFP distribution list and posted on Facebook on August 23rd. And the deadline for the lodging tax applications was October 24th. So the city received 4 proposals, one from Fort Walla Walla Museum in the amount of $5,000 for personnel and programming, one from Powerhouse Theater of Walla Walla in the amount of $10,000 for marketing and promotion, contractors for web, photography, social media, and video. One from the Walla Walla Valley Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $7,500 for the film Walla Walla Valley event to help cover costs of personnel administration and fam tours. And then the City of College Place submitted an application in the amount of $14,000 for Freedom Festival for marketing and promotion, promotional items, and live entertainment. The total of all 4 requests was $36,500. The Lodging Tax Advisory Commission recommended approval of all 4 funding applications as presented. The estimated total funds for the Fund 130 Hotel Motel Tax for the end of this year is $69,138. The total 2024 funding request is $36,500. So that would leave an estimated fund balance of $32,638.40. Questions?
Councilmember Jessup?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland?
This is probably in here somewhere, but I was curious, what does that fund get each year typically?
Let me open.
Is the 69,000 the accumulation of several years, or is that like, everything we got last year? Or is that a couple of years? I'm just kind of curious.
No, the beginning balance for 2023 was 60,000. And then we had 32,000 in revenues up to the end of September. And then we estimate that there's going to be another 10,900 through the rest of the year.
All right, thank you.
So a little bit over about 44,000. Okay. Councilmember Peterson?
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman?
No question.
Councilmember Boyle?
No questions. Thanks.
When do we submit payments to these? When do we give them the funds?
They're reimbursable.
They're reimbursable. Okay, so just a quick question on the College Place. Freedom Festival, this is for 2024? I see. Okay, all right. I just wasn't sure how that worked. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, then let's move on to the next one. Mr. Rizzatello is going to present on the draft fiscal year 2024 to 2029 capital facilities plan in brief.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. Yep. So just to reiterate, so the documents you have for this, we have the summary spreadsheet that details everything. And then if you're so inclined, you can go into the 82-page booklet and look at all the look at all the projects and things along that line. I will say the priority projects for next year is the wastewater treatment plant, mainly changing out the mechanical equipment. Lions Park, which essentially the REIT 2, when they was created like 7 years ago, they has 4 parks. So basically it's providing our local match for that. Majanier Road, we're teeing that up. We have public meeting on the last week, but we're getting to the right-of-way acquisition phase, and then likely we'll get out to bid later next year. The street decant facility for stormwater, teeing that up for engineering. Lift Station 5, which is on Southwest First, and they'll be replacing it when appropriate lift station, and then sidewalks and fixing up the street. And then the drilling element of the additional drinking water well over on Southwest Teal. So those are the critical pathway projects. And there's a litany of other ones as well, but I won't take the time on that. I will say today, we've run this through advisory commissions and their respective sections, and the Park Board, the Economic Development Commission, and Utilities and Transportation Advisory Commission. They've all taken a vote to recommend this to you all.
All right, thank you, Mike. All right, Councilmember Jessup.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Peterson.
So the budget process right now, as presented, we're 90% there, 95%. Yeah, so, with that change in fund balance and whatnot, but, so the next steps will be, what's the next deadline then for this budget? Is it? December 12th, okay.
Yeah, I mean, December 12th, that would be ultimately the recommended timeframe to pass the budget element. As far as the 6-year plans, though, historically, those have gone for passage the last meeting in November, because then with the 6-year plans being approved, that's basically the part of the three-legged footstool prop up the budget, so.
And all those numbers in Mike's plan are for 2024 are incorporated,
Right.
both from expenditure and from funding source.
Not, yeah, no, yeah.
And,
right.
a lot of that's, it's got to be clear to everyone that, if you don't get the funding, some of those projects don't happen.
Right.
So, but they're fully included in the current budget.
Yeah, okay. Cool, thank you.
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks, Mike.
All right, so let's move on then. The draft fiscal year 2024-2029 equipment replacement plan.
Thank you. Same concept, 6-year plan. First year is defined. Other 5 years are for planning purposes. So key items next year would be for City Hall, the generator replacement, fire department, the ambulance that's on order, police department, the vehicles, getting into the streets department, a number of vehicles areas we're bolstering our fleet, and then also trying to improve our snow operation. The Jacobs contract addendum for wastewater, and that gets us out of having to buy equipment individually for wastewater. And then the water department, a utility truck, and then vehicles for the 2 requested staffing additions of the water utility person and the project manager. They'll be overseeing the respective capital projects. But that is the notes on the ER&R plan.
Okay, Councilmember Cleveland. I'm sorry, Jessup, questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Councilmember Cleveland.
No.
Councilmember Peterson.
No questions.
Councilmember Sherman.
I have a question. On this one, you still have a ad marked vehicle for new officer position 2. Will that stay there or will that go bye-bye with the second position?
The additional vehicle for the second staffer, that'll be cut.
Shifted.
So yeah,
Okay, thanks.
good catch.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay, next is the draft fiscal year 2024 to 2029 informational technology plan.
Okay, thank you. Same general concept, 6 years. First year's concrete, the additional 5 years are for planning purposes. I mean, we're now at a point with information technology is very straightforward. We're on our computer replacement plan, and a lot of this is the software maintenance expense. The key items for next year will be a server replacement over here, because we're actually already at the end of the useful life. Time passes quick. We originally got the replacement server when I first started, and now it's like past when the time frame for support. And then a lot of this is just essentially software maintenance across departments, and then finishing out the Tyler implementation. But that is the basis of the information technology plan.
All right, Councilmember Jessup. Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Peterson. Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions, thanks.
All right. See, Mike, when you speed it up, we speed it up. All right, next. Let's see. Okay, next. Oh, I want to hear this one. Memorandum of understanding between this.
The other ones?
Well. Okay, now you embarrassed me. Next is a memorandum of understanding between the City of College Place, Walla Walla University, and Commonwealth Housing Land Trust. Mr. Sotelo.
Yeah, so I'm introducing this memorandum of understanding. It's between the three agencies, and this is for future planning purposes. So the land that's in question here right now is outside the corporate limits of College Place, although it's adjacent to it. Some of the financial folks at the university have approached us, whereas we go around the countywide planning policies and all of that gets tweaked. There's a movement afoot about wanting to get some of that land to the west of Martin Airfield that they own into the city the next time, because it sounds like they want to get additional development in here. I will say the big issue with that is that right now our utilities end pretty much at the start of the Martin Airfield. So over where Homestead Edition is at. And I know with the folks behind Martin Airfield, their first priority is fixing up the airfield. So they'll probably be coming to us for utility extensions for like the administration building around Martin Airfield and some stuff immediately adjacent to the runway. But things further out on that western side, I think is going to take a very long time to play out. And so it may end up in a situation where with the planning policies, and if everything goes our way and we can increase in size, it could end up at a point where a university for that land out there may still be waiting for utilities to go out there. Then Common Roots has had conversations with respective owners both in Walla Walla, Waitsburg, all over county, in fact. And there's been discussion about the university essentially selling about 5 acres of land out there for development of something for Common Roots. Now, where that is an interest to us is that if they do that, that opens up a grant opportunity called the CHIP grant, the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure program, that essentially would pay the cost to like run utilities out there. And I asked our on-call engineer to figure out the estimates, because we don't know what we don't know, because way back when, as you all may recall, we originally weren't going out in the direction of Martin Airfield. So to go out that far for water and sewer is $4 million per utility. So if the university and any other interests are wanting to go out there, if Corliss doesn't move in a very quick fashion on the far west end of the site, they could be waiting for a while. So this MOU just it doesn't really commit folks anything. There's pullouts, and with the university, they say they're open to essentially selling the 5 acres, and that the parties would work toward getting that CHIP grant, because then it tees that property. You have to actually be hooked into utilities and not be waiting for the Martin Airfield folks to run all the way out to the west end, which really they don't have to right now. I mean, their first priority is fixing the airfield. So that's it. That's the general concept of this, just trying to tee it up for the CHIP grant and benefit all the parties.
All right, let's go for questions. Councilmember Jessup.
I had a couple of quick questions, if you don't mind. With that property, I know you were talking about down the road. How, I'm looking at the map. I guess I'm not reading it correctly. How close is that getting to the Whitman Mission Historical Site?
That is not the close to it. I mean, to even get from Hampton Lane out to Last Chance, that's about another 1.5 miles. I ride that all the time. It's still another 1.5 miles from there. And then even once you get to Last Chance, to get to the hillsides, about another 0.5 mile. So you're probably talking about a 2-mile gap from the point where the little red dot is.
Sure. The other question is, I don't know if this is within a question to ask or purview with this, but the last that we heard from Common Roots was they came to council several months ago, and I think at the time the director was kind of new to the position. And I know they had the public forum and such, and some of the city planner forums at the city, or excuse me, at the airport district. Is it something before these types of things keep moving forward? Is it something that we're able to request Common Roots to kind of come back? Kind of one of those deals of now that he's in his position a little further, they got a little bit opportunity for us to kind of ask some more as these things are kind of coming up and the city's being involved more. I'm wondering if that would be prudent for us to.
That would be very appropriate.
Okay. And thank you. And this is not a slight, this is a positive step. I'm glad the university and the city and is kind of partnering a little bit, having the university being involved and willing to, it's wonderful. But yeah, so if that's okay, I'd love to, feel like it would be prudent to have Common Roots and kind of update, I guess, or ask and talk.
And I can definitely get that on the schedule because just so everyone knows, I'm on the board of directors of that. So I'll bring it up the next meeting. I'll just mention too, there's a similar project that Common Roots is working on over on the edge of city of Walla Walla too, that would utilize the identical grant except over there. So the amount of like ARPA money that the state threw into this grant program is pretty insane. So that's why everyone's trying to take advantage of it.
Well, I'm not ashamed to admit on the lowdown that I want to be first.
Yeah.
I want to beat Walla Walla too. Councilmember Cleveland. Councilmember Peterson.
Questions?
Councilmember Sherman.
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions. Thanks.
All right. All right, Mike. Thank you very much for that. And just put that on their radar that we would like for them to come back and give a presentation and show some more progress of where they're at.
Yep.
All right. Okay, moving on. Informational reports. There's one informational report in your packet. If you have not had a chance to read it, please do look it over. And we do not have an executive session for tonight. And before closing items, I know this is going to sound silly, but I don't think it is. I do want to congratulate city council members for keeping the trust of the citizens and being reelected, even though you weren't opposed, it still matters. That means people still trust you though. So I think it's a pretty big deal. And your first election, Councilmember Jessup, so congratulations on that. So congratulations on that. Yeah. No, we're at like 22 or something. It was kind of high. All right. So is there any other business for good of the order? All right. Hearing none, do we have a motion to conclude the meeting? Is there a second? Thank you very much. If there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at 8:43 p.m. Thank you, everybody.